Government of Trinidad and Tobago, the and other distinguished ladies and gentlemen in the audience, a very warm good morning. The UWI has had many opportunities to honor alumni who have achieved the status of head of government. This morning, we are honoring the Honourable Keith Rowley, recently elected Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. On behalf of the University of the West Indies, I would like to congratulate you on the win for you and your party, and with the excellent education that you have gotten from the UWI. We are confident that the affairs of Trinidad and Tobago, and indeed CARICOM, are in very safe hands. In my previous life, Prime Minister, I was Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology. In your days, it was the Faculty of Natural Sciences, I believe. They are extremely proud of the service that you have provided to Trinidad and Tobago and also to the region. And they are looking forward to your leadership in the creation of an innovation system in the Caribbean. It's something that we have been working on with another stalwart, Dr. Keith Mitchell, and we trust that even though you have other responsibilities within CARICOM, but your science background will help to drive this process forward as we seek to regionalize some of the most critical areas and efforts that we must make for the development of the region. So we want to welcome you warmly to this campus and to the University of the West Indies. And to do so properly, I welcome the principal of the Mona campus to do the honors. Principal.
Thank you, Professor Kawa, Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, our own Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles. Let me recognize our, are you still new, sir? Should I say new? Not anymore. Our Minister of Education, the Honourable Rowley, Mrs. Rowley, welcome. Other members of the delegation from Trinidad and Tobago. I don't believe there are any other ministers here from Jamaica. Members of the Diplomatic Corps, let me recognize the President of our Guild of Students. Welcome, and let us remind ourselves that what universities are about is students. Students are the most important part of our university. So welcome, Ms. Gonzales. On behalf of the University of the West Indies, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome the Honourable Keith Rowley, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Rowley, Professor Beckles, our Vice-Chancellor, members of the UWI's Executive Committee, members of the Diplomatic Corps, and other distinguished guests to the grounds of our esteemed institution and to the grounds of our beautiful campus, the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies. Today we celebrate the enormous achievements of one of our most distinguished UWI graduates and recognize the exceptional contributions he has made to nation building and to improving the developmental infrastructure of the Caribbean region. As a learning institution, the University of the West Indies often covets the opportunity to showcase the exceptional work carried out by our graduates, because it provides us with an opportunity to create a platform for building our community whilst also inspiring present and future generations of graduates to strive for similar success and beyond. As we celebrate the achievements of Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley, who is visiting Jamaica at the invitation of our most distinguished Prime Minister, the Honourable Andrew Holness, who himself is also a distinguished graduate of the Mona campus and the University of the West Indies. We recognize that we are in the midst of pure, exceptional leadership and pioneering greatness. These individuals have shaped their political and socioeconomic consciousness based in part on the knowledge and experiences gained during their tenure as students of the University of the West Indies. I'm certain that the visit to the beautiful Mona campus brings back fond memories for Prime Minister Rowley. This is truly an honor for our institution to be able to recognize the achievements of our hard-working students, but it provides us with an opportunity to fully recognize the strength and indeed the hard work of an individual who has made his mark as a pillar in our regional community. The significance of this park and today's induction ceremony further goes beyond the idea of just commemorating the tenure of individuals who have become exceptional leaders throughout the Caribbean. It acts as an important confirmation for new generations of students that hard work, dedication, and the zeal to accomplish great things are indeed critical to achieving one's goals in life. This park illustrates to the students who pass by it every day that they too are capable of setting forth positive change in our society, and that they too can become the leaders of growth and development for the Caribbean. If I have one regret, is that Prime Minister and Vice-Chancellor, we are on, our students are on their summer break, because what I would have loved is to see this room full, all these chairs occupied by students, because we need to inspire our students from all walks of life, These days, we have many of our students. We have experienced a shift in the demographics of our students, and now we have many students from the lower socioeconomic groups, students who our society, unfortunately, don't do enough to ensure that they are not marginalized. And I believe that this should serve as an inspiration for all our students, but especially those students from the lower socioeconomic groupings of our society who are threatened with marginalization. The park acts as a standing monument to the present and future generations that the UWI is a world-class institution that produces world-class leaders who display the knowledge, fortitude, and strength to guide developing nations towards a path to prosperity. It illustrates to us all that this is an institution that molds individuals who are capable of adding significant value to our country and our region. UWI graduates are the distinct individuals who are capable of taking their experiences and knowledge gained as a student and channel them into positive examples of success and dedication to nation building. As a former student myself and lecturer and now principal of the UWI, I am pleased and honored to know that it acts as a formal signpost of the great achievements of our past students, whilst while serving as inspiration for our future cohorts. In closing, I would like to again congratulate Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley on his exceptional career thus far. You are a true monument to what hard work and dedication is capable of achieving. But you also illustrate to our entire society that a commitment to nation building and facilitating societal growth are important virtues of any leader, any true leader. Our Caribbean prime ministers, especially those who are UWI graduates, act as an inspiration for the many young children who have similar dreams of greatness. The University of the West Indies is indeed pleased to be able to host another ceremony inducting another of our graduates into the UWI Mona Prime Minister's Park, ensuring that the memory of his outstanding contribution to Caribbean development lasts for generations to come. And colleagues, ministers, distinguished guests, I look forward to hosting another ceremony before the end of this calendar year. Let me thank you all for attending and supporting this morning's ceremony. And I wish Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley continued success during his tenure as Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal MacDonald. May I now invite the Vice-Chancellor to bring greetings. Vice-Chancellor.
Thank you, Chairman. Honourable Prime Minister, Madam Rowley, welcome. Our distinguished Minister of Education, Mr. Reid, and our Chief Secretary and Madam Chief Secretary, colleagues, friends, good morning, everyone. I arrived in Jamaica yesterday afternoon, and as I came out of the airport, there was a journalist waiting for me and presented me with the headline story in the Gleaner. And when I smiled upon it, the question he asked was, Vice-Chancellor, why are you smiling? The headline says, UWI blundered. And I smiled again. And I said, my heart is full, and I will continue to smile. And I said to him, well, there are two things I am going to do in the next 24 hours. I know that I'm going to see our Honourable Prime Minister Holness, and when I see him, I'm going to give him a big hug. And then I'm going to see Prime Minister Rowley, and I'm going to say to him, we at UWI, we are very proud of you. Now, last night, I greeted Prime Minister Holness, and I said to him, I am going to say nothing to you, sir, but I'm going to hug you. And he said, well, you owe me a big hug. And I gave him a big hug. And this morning, I had the honor of introducing Prime Minister Rowley to the senior management of the University of the West Indies across the region online. And in my introductory comments, I said, Prime Minister Rowley has behaved in a manner perfectly consistent with the fine education he received at the Mona campus. came here, departed this land with first-class honors, and in the midst of a Caribbean quarrel where two parts of the family were quarreling over this and that, he said, you know, I'm going to go up there and bring greetings to everyone. And he rose above it, came here to Jamaica, engaged the Jamaican people, and engaged the Jamaican private sector and the state, and assured them that a family may very well have quarrels from time to time, but at the end of the day, we are an indivisible family. And if that isn't statesmanship, I don't know what is. What history will show, and I am a historian, I think I still am, and we do write this thing down, and I will write about it hopefully one day, that two of the youngest serving prime ministers just come into office rose to the maximum height of their statesmanship and brought leadership to our region. That is truly remarkable. It is as if they were born running. We are very proud of all of that. It so happens, of course, that I was with them at the Heads of Governments meeting in Guyana a week ago, and the question was asked, how is it that we have no female head of state in CARICOM? And the chairman reported, we had two of them, but this Prime Minister and Prime Minister Holness are responsible for removing both of them. But critically, this island, Jamaica, hosted this university in its fledgling days, 1948. We started here. The generosity and the big-mindedness of the Jamaican people gave this university a great start. I have read all of the reports about the beginning of Mona and how this country rallied around Mona and made Mona into what it has become. That is the world that Prime Minister Rowley entered into as a student. But now he is the host Prime Minister of our largest campus, St. Augustine. He is now in a position to enable St. Augustine to provide that leadership in the future that Mona had provided for the first 60 years. So all of this is interconnected. And his presence here this morning is to fulfill what seems like a logical trajectory. Leaving a small island, and I'm not including Trinidad. When I say a small island, I mean Tobago. Leaving a small island and coming to a big island, coming here to Mona, distinguishing himself in a way we would have expected, returning to his homeland to become its leader, and now to have responsibility as Prime Minister for his alma mater, for his university. This is that cycle. And so this sacred ground, this Prime Minister's Park, this place where we will pay respect to all of our distinguished graduates who taken their pedagogy of Caribbean integration that is embedded in our studies, taking responsibility for Caribbean people, our identity and our civilization, which are embedded in our curriculum, to bring them back here and to say to them We are proud, we are honored, and as I said to the journalists yesterday afternoon, my heart is full. So, Prime Minister, we not only congratulate you, we are proud, we are honored, and we know, given your journey, that you will continue to provide the statesmanship that the citizens of this region are entitled to, expect to have, the vision, the commitment, and the generosity of sharing your time and your best thoughts with your people. Congratulations. God bless.
Thank you very much, Vice-Chancellor, for those greetings. We are going to hear from the Prime Minister shortly. But before then, I would like to invite our President of the Guild of Students, Ms. Mikaela Gonzales, to introduce the Prime Minister.
Vice-Chancellor, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley, Pro Vice-Chancellor and Principal of UWI, Professor Archibald MacDonald, and other members of the University Administration, Deputy Principal of UWI, Professor Ishinkumba Kawo, other members of government, councillors, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Go back. Dr. the Honourable Keith Christopher Rowley was born on October 24, 1949, in Mason Hall, Tobago, and was raised by his grandparents, who were prominent Tobago farmers. Dr. Rowley completed his secondary schooling at Bishop's High School, Tobago, and his sterling academic performance saw him capture the prestigious Sylvan Bowles Scholarship. He then commenced his studies at the University of the West Indies, from where he graduated with 3 degrees: a Bachelor's of Science in Geology, first class honors, a Bachelor's of Science in Geography, first class honors, and a Master's of Science in Volcanic Stratigraphy. He's a volcanologist who obtained his doctorate in geology, specializing in geochemistry. He's a known nature lover who enjoys gardening, hiking, and is an avid golfer. He was also the general manager of a state-owned National Quarries Company Limited. He first ran for political office in 1981, where he contested the Tobago West seat. Today, Keith Rowley has the distinction of being the only People's National Movement candidate to have contested a seat in a general election in both Tobago and Trinidad. Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley is the member of House of Representatives for the Diego Martin West in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago, where he has represented that constituency since 1991, having been re-elected in 1995, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2007, and 2010. Dr. Rowley first served in Parliament as an opposition senator from 1987 to 1990. He later served at cabinet level, holding at various times the portfolios Minister of Agriculture, Lands and Marine Resources, Minister of Planning and Development, Minister of Housing, Minister of Trade and Industry, Governor of the Caribbean Development Bank, and Trinidad and Tobago's representative governor of the Inter-American Development Bank. Following the People's National Movement's defeat in the Trinidad and Tobago general election 2010, Dr. Rowley was appointed leader of the opposition of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and was elected political leader of the People's National Movement in 2010. On September 7, 2015, Dr. Rowley led the People's National Movement to general election victory to become the 7th Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Dr. Rowley is married to attorney-at-law Sharon Rowley. They have 2 daughters, Tonya and Sonil, who are attorney-at-law and postgraduate students respectively, both of whom have won national awards. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to stand as we welcome Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. the Honourable Keith Rowley.
Thank you very much, President of the Guild of Graduates. It's graduates or students of the University of Mona. Vice-Chancellor, Professor Hilary Beckles, PVC Archibald MacDonald, Deputy Principal, Professor Mikaela, Education Minister Reid of the Government of Jamaica, my cabinet colleagues here with me today as part of the Trinidad and Tobago delegation, Minister of Foreign Affairs and CARICOM Affairs, Senator Dennis Moses, Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and Minister in the Office of the Attorney General, Minister Stuart Young, my parliamentary colleague, Member of Parliament for St. Augustine, Trinidad, Mr. Prakash Ramada, Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Orville London and Mrs. London, His Excellency Trinidad and Tobago's High Commissioner to Jamaica, Mr. Fitzgerald Jeffrey, members of the executive of the campus at Mona, UWI in general, other parliamentary colleagues, members of the Diplomatic Corps, members of staff, students, members of the media. Today is a surprisingly special day for me in that when I embarked on this mission to Jamaica, I never anticipated that I would have been taken so far back into my own memories, into a place where I seemed to be lost. As I came out of the Vice-Chancellor's office a moment ago, had there been someone next to me, I would have been embarrassed to ask, where are we? And until they identified Irving Hall's Porter's Lodge, the eastern end of Irving Hall, I was lost. But it's a good place to be lost. And I want to, in this feeling of being lost on campus at Mona, to thank the university for organizing this ceremony, to acknowledge my presence here at Mona and my involvement with this venerable institution. And those of us who are the products of UWI, when accolades are placed on our heads, we can only but recognize the work of those who went before. And as the exhortations are made, and it is pointed out that it's left to us to continue these traditions and to ensure that UWI continue to serve the generations to come, then it dawns on me that the responsibility is quite significant. But one then begins to think about fate. What is fate and what do you believe in? You've heard that I'm a golfer. And Professor Beckles whispered to me, not an avid golfer, I hear that you're an addicted golfer. And I said, I wish I was playing enough to be addicted. But when we go to the golf course, sometimes you think you're playing very well, but then the score doesn't reflect it. And then we all console ourselves by saying that when you left home this morning, the score was already decided by fate. So no amount of playing on your part could change that. And that's how we managed to get by the shots and the errant lost balls and so on. But I turned up on this campus in 1970 without any documentation. I don't know how it was done, because when I look back on it now, I think the officers of the campus in Trinidad could have been guilty of irresponsibility, because they sent me at my word to Mona as a scholarship winner without a line of documentation. So I arrived on this campus and I became a ward of the university. So I was put into the hands of a lady somewhere over here at student registration, And I eventually became a ward of that person and PVC Robinson. And that went on for 2 weeks. I was up and down the campus, just being here, not a line of documentation. But it eventually worked very well for me in that I must have been the only student who was personally known by the PVC and the head of student administration. And I exploited that. I lived a great student life at Mona. And nowhere in that period of my life could I have dreamt that one day I'll come back here with the responsibility in my days of retirement as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to be inducted in this very unique park. But something else happened when I came here to Jamaica this week. For the last few months, I've been trying to remember this lady who I spent this period of my loneliness and my vagrancy on campus with. And I had lost contact with her many, many years ago, and I couldn't find her. But when I came here this week, I was assigned a protocol officer who's been looking after me very, very well. And I decided to ask her about this lady, and I started to describe her. And she said, that was my mother. And for me, that symbolizes my life at Mona and my visit this week. I am so grateful to so many people that everything that is said about me and my attainment and whatever happened, I share with all those persons at UWI, where I spent most of my life. And even as an adult, I continued in UWI. And I would like to acknowledge a person who has been instrumental in allowing me to continue to realize the promise of my career. And that person is my wife, Sharon. Unfortunately, another UWI graduate, and our two daughters are UWI graduates. So for us, UWI is a realization of the promise of the University of the West Indies, a promise that came out of a dream that was dreamt many, many years ago. And for me, when I came to Mona, I got absorbed into the university. And I didn't leave permanently until I went into government, reluctantly, because I always felt that this is where my life was at its best. And I owe a debt of gratitude to the scholarship and the professionalism of the staff at UWI. Some names that may not mean anything to you, but meant a lot to me. Professor Skelding, Professor Ted Robinson, PVC Robinson, and of course, Mr. Cedric Harper, the warden of Irving Hall. And symbolism matters, because when I came into Irving, whatever I came with, I didn't know I was going to end up, because the lady I described to you a while ago, Lady Phillip, she got me off campus for 2 weeks when I was a vagrant and landed me in Irving Hall, where I spent 3 years. And interestingly, in those days, you'd be allowed to stay for a year and then they go off campus, or possibly 2 years. I spent 3 years in Irving Hall. And when I was told about this ceremony this morning, I said, I hope they don't go digging up my past, because not all of it is presentable in occasions like these. But Warden Harper must have seen something about me, and he spoke about leadership, that he wanted leadership in the hall. And it was under those grounds that I was allowed to remain for 3 years. But I'm sure he knew that I threw a few bottles on the... I'm sure he knew that, but he excused that. But we had a wonderful time on campus. But today, in 2016, the demand on the university is probably greater than at its inception. Because the expectation of our people exposed in this age of communication, I am sure the expectation in the average household is greater than in my day, when fewer students left home to go to university and to university abroad. Today, every child with a cell phone in hand can and must aspire to rise to their highest potential. And that is why the university's assignment has become so much more onerous. It's an era of cynicism where responsibility and entitlement have replaced hard work and reason. So today, as the leader of a government, and I didn't even realize that St. Augustine had surpassed Mona as the largest campus student-wise. So it falls on us at the level of government to ensure that the resources are made available to the up-and-coming ones, that they too could live and experience the dreams that we have lived. And if in the colonial era, what had been done for me and my generation, for those of us in this era of independence and of CARICOM, we must do what has to be done to ensure that the dream continues to be realized. As Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, I give the commitment that education will remain at the forefront of the government's contribution to national development. In recent times, the government of Trinidad and Tobago and the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we have been severely challenged, and we continue to be severely challenged by matters of national security. We have an intractable crime problem, international security issues have been making a tremendous demand on the public purse. So that today, the single largest component of the budget of Trinidad and Tobago is national security. It's a worry for us. It used to be education for decades, but in recent times, the largest slice of that pie is national security. But we have to secure life and limb to be able to experience good health and education. We hope that that will be reversed in the not too distant future. But we maintain that education is a priority. And our contribution to UWI is money well spent. This morning I gave the assurance and made the request of our leaders here in the university that as we fund the arrangements here and as we send our young impressionable minds here and as we support graduates, that we try to ensure that there's more relevance between what goes on at the university and what goes on in government. And that the university assists us as government leaders with the data to make sound decisions and let those decisions be driven by scientifically extracted data, by dispassionate analyses, all of it against a background that we can do better than whatever we're doing now. We are very proud of this university. As I drove through here this morning, in my day, our pride was in a smaller university with fewer buildings, but with very, very broad shoulders. And I'm sure the shoulders are as broad as they used to be, and many, many more. Last night, at a reception at the Trinidad and Tobago High Commission, I was very pleased to talk to a number of young students and to see how confident they were. Some of them barely looking like high school students, telling me that they're third-year medical students. And the confidence is there. And as long as that confidence is there in our young people, it's an entreaty to those of us who lead at the top, at the university and the government, that they're depending on us. On behalf of all the people I serve with and serve for, I want to thank the university for this induction, for this recognition. On behalf of my family, which I would say is not just a bishop's family, because we all come out of Bishop's High School in Tobago, in my family, but I went to the real bishops in Tobago. It's the real bishops, it's the only bishops with boys and girls. The other bishops only have half of the population. but we all are UWI graduates. On behalf of the colleagues I work with now, including the minister in the Prime Minister's office who is still trying to matriculate into UWI. It's not too late. He can do an evening course or something. The Open University is there. I'll encourage him to do that so that he can be fully qualified. But on behalf of all these people who have done so much for us, and on behalf of all those people who are depending on us, who are now in the primary schools, the secondary schools, or even out of school, I say thank you. And thank you for keeping the dream alive. UWI is a star in the crown of the Caribbean nation, and I thank you for being part of it.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and thank you to the audience for acknowledging what he had to say. We are now getting close to the end of the function, but before we do so, we're going to have the unveiling of the plaque, which is going to take place somewhere to my right. I'm going to ask that you allow the platform party and Mrs. Rowley and all ministers of the government of Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica to join the Prime Minister in unveiling the plaque. And then the rest of us could watch from wherever you can find a space to see. After that, we have invited the Prime Minister to visit the campus, and those of us who want to accompany him will certainly be able, to do so. So I want to, since I may not be coming back to the podium, I want to thank you all, for coming and for the enthusiastic reception that we have given to the Prime Minister and what he had to say. And I also want to thank all the contributors who spoke this morning. Thank you very much for coming. We will now go to unveil the plaque.
Hemingway will ask for